Tommy Bolt was one of the best shot makers who ever played the game. Ben Hogan said that Bolt would have been the best golfer who ever lived if he didn't have such a ferocious temper. His showmanship, shot making, and sensitivity to young fans significantly increased interest in the great game of golf. Meet Tommy Bolt tonight on Golf Talk Live. Welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm Peter Kessler. Tommy Bolt has said he never threw a club that didn't deserve it, and he still holds the title as the finest club thrower ever to play on the tour. At Pebble Beach in his prime, he decided to hit a soft 7-iron once to the 16th green. His caddy told him it would have to either be a 3-iron or a 3-wood, the only two clubs left in his bag. He would have won more tournaments with a full bag of clubs, but it wouldn't have been as much fun for those of us who've seen him play. Tommy Bolt could create any shot he wanted, and he stood out in an era of great shot makers. He was a contemporary of Sam Snead, whom he defeated in the PGA quarterfinals in 1954 and 55. In 1955, when Jack Fleck defeated Ben Hogan in his attempt to win his 5th U.S. Open, Bolt finished in 3rd just behind them. As late as 1971, when he was 55 years old, Bolt finished 3rd in the PGA behind Nicklaus, then in his prime, and Billy Casper. His greatest triumph was the 1958 U.S. Open at Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma. His ball striking, course management skills, and controlled temper helped fuel his magnificent victory. Tommy, to have you here tonight, the night before the 4th of July, and in keeping with the fact that you are golf's all-time greatest and most colorful firecracker, is perfect timing, and we're thrilled that you're here.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Peter. I'm happy to be here.
You know, people who know that you were one of the greatest players of your time, really from 51 to 61, Hogan said you were the best shot maker of the decade, don't really know how you got your start in golf, and I thought it might be interesting for our viewers to hear a little bit about the time when you used to play at Lakeside Golf Course in Shreveport, Louisiana, and how you started to play golf during that time.
Well, Peter, my brother and I started caddying at Lakeside in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I was lucky enough to caddy for some of the real well-known old pros back in those days. For instance, Al Espinosa.
Sure.
And he was pro at the Shreveport Country Club, you know, the real exclusive club over there.
Was that after he lost to Jones in the playoff at Wingfoot in the Open?
Yes, it was later in his life, yeah. And when I saw those guys and how well they were dressed and everything, and their big golf bags with 1,000 clubs in them, Peter, I said, this is what I want to be when I was about 12 or 13 years old. And of course I had to work at other trades and everything to become a professional golf player, but I was very fortunate to get there, and thank the good Lord I did, because I've lived a life of a millionaire for about 40 or 50 years, and I don't think you can beat that.
You know, when your dad, of course, was a carpenter, as most people don't know, and when you were in the service in Rome, you were not only playing golf, but you also built, I understood with your carpenter's tools and background, a crap table, didn't you?
Well, those guys were coming back from the front up there, Peter. I was lucky enough to be in special services. I'd been transferred from the infantry back to the special services in Rome, and I was the American personnel golf instructor there to teach the American personnel how to, you know, play golf. I was in charge of all of it. So those kids were coming back with all that money, So when I'd get a piece of it, so I built a dice table, and I must have, well, I've always faded, like they do in the gambling places. I faded the table. And
Tell people what faded means.
faded means you fade the, you bet against the roller of the dice. The guy's rolling the dice, he bets his money that he can hit to make his point, and you fade him. You bet he can't, and that's what fading the dice is. And I won footlockers full of lire over there, Peter. You wouldn't believe how much I won, but some of the guys couldn't afford to pay me right then, so they owed me $40,000 and $50,000 in lirs, or in lire. I don't know
Right.
what dollar.
Lira, sure.
Relate to dollars, but if I collected all that money, I'd be a wealthy man right now.
But you've lived the life of a wealthy man, and you haven't lacked for a thing, have you?
I've been very fortunate, Peter. Yes, like I told you before, I've lived a real good life, and thanks to golf.
By the time that you were in Rome, you were already considered one heck of a shot maker. What do you attribute that to? They said that you could hit any shot you wanted, high, low, left to right, right to left, at will, and almost decide on your downswing where the ball was going to go.
I wish I could have done that, Peter. No, I think being a caddy and carrying your own bag out there around the golf courses, walking and playing on Saturday morning, all of us kids learned to hit different types of shots, and I think it's just being a caddy and learning to hit those shots. You live with that the rest of your life. You have that the rest of your life. You never forget that. That's part of your makeup.
Very quickly, when you were coming back to the United States after Rome, you had this big footlocker full of lira and dollar bills. Is it true when you finally reached the shore in New York that the footlocker was empty?
Lost every quarter of it.
How?
Well, some of the prisoners, some of the AWOL guys had been in prison over there, and they had learned to even roll those dice, and I was betting they couldn't even roll them, and boy, they won every lire that I had, believe me.
Sounds like a rigged game to me.
It does to me. It was rigged. They could even roll those dice, but I didn't know what they were doing.
We're going to be right back with the great Tommy Bolt on Golf Talk Live. Our number is 1-800-842-9987. Stay with us.
Tommy Bolt teed off on the tough Southern Hills course at Tulsa in the National Open, playing with his shots and his famous temper well under control. The tricky course and high pressure of open play took its toll of contenders. Gary Player of South Africa hauled out, the leader with 287. But Bolt, coming up behind, shook off the pressure and finished with a winning 283.
Man, that was such a tough golf course that week, wasn't it?
It really was, Peter. That rough out there was so high. If you missed the fairway, you had to take your sand wedge out and put it back in the fairway to keep on going. And it was hot, Peter. It was 95, and they had about a 15-mile-an-hour wind blowing. And it was absolutely perfect for me. I was playing in my home state. I was born in Oklahoma. And evidently those people liked me there in Tulsa, and it means a lot for people to be cheering for you. It inspires you. After all, we were just actors out there on the golf course anyway. And if you get inspired by the public like that, you perform for them. So I was fortunate and performed, and been able to perform for it.
Not only did you perform and perform brilliantly, but coming down the last few holes, as I understand it, you were in such a great mood and so full of confidence that you called all the sports writers who were following you along the last few holes to sort of join you on the golf course, and you called your shots in advance coming down the stretch. Is that a true story?
Some of the guys out there said that, but Peter, I was in such a good frame of mind. I was thinking good. I was reading good thoughts for daily living and things like that, and I had just so much confidence in myself that couldn't anything bother me. I was concentrating so well. Yeah, I might have asked them to come on and join me out on the fairway, and I don't know if I really hit any shots that I called or not, but I just continued to play well, and the last hole is really a tremendously hard hole, and I was in the fairway, but the drive was on the right side of the fairway, and I was standing about 1.5 feet above the ball, and I had about 215, 20 yards in there to the green. I just whipped out that little 5-wood and just sailed it right up on the green, just like I was supposed to, and tapped it down in 2 and went on about my business.
Too bad you couldn't have taken that crowd and those feelings everywhere you went. You'd never lose a golf tournament.
I'd never lose a golf tournament if I had that crowd in the back of me. People make you a champion, Peter. Believe me, they do.
Well, you got to have the tools to start with.
I know, but the public pulling for you gives you the desire to perform. Believe me, they do. Some of those baseball players that are just pretty good ball players that in the minor leagues, and they go to the New York Yankees, they become champions right there, boy. I've seen them.
There's a lot to be said for
yes,
support
sir.
and love.
Yes, there is.
We've got Pete with us, Tommy, from South Carolina. Hello, Pete.
Hey,
How you doing?
good. How about you?
Good. Thanks for calling.
I'd like to ask Mr. Bolt why he had such a bad temper on that course.
Peter, I was always trying to win. I was determined out there, and I guess it was just instilled in me when I was a kid. I just thought that you had, I'm a perfectionist. If I didn't perform like I think I should have, or hit the shot like it should have been, it just disappointed me. And I was always mad at myself. I wasn't mad at anybody else. It was always me that I was mad at.
Now, you've been quoted as saying that your temper was wildly exaggerated and that there was a big difference between throwing clubs and tossing clubs. Tell us about that.
Peter, I've thrown actually maybe 5 or 6 clubs in my life. Now, I've tossed some of them to the caddies.
But if a toss goes 40 feet in the air, is that still a toss?
Well, now, I tossed a couple of them up in the air, but I was always trying to catch it coming down. I never threw one that endangered anybody's life. And yes, it's been exaggerated. I threw a few clubs, but you'd think that I threw them all.
Now, you played with a lot of guys who were known to have very even dispositions, who were pretty serious club throwers. Sam Snead taking a divot on the green at number 12 at Augusta. Jackie Burke sticking clubs in the ground where it took 4 guys to pull them out. Tell us about that.
Well, I was playing in the back of Sam. He was playing the 12th hole at Augusta, right ahead of me there, and all the officials were sitting down on the right-hand side of the 12th tee, which where they all sit during the tournament.
Sure.
And they saw Snead knocked it over the green, chipped it back about 8 feet past the hole, and missed the putt. And he didn't do it purposely, but he took a divot about 6 or 8 inches long out of the green. And he went into the bunker and got a lot of sand and tried to repair the divot. He couldn't do it. But those officials I was standing on the tee, and they all looked at me the same time I looked back at them.
As though you had done it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Tommy Bolt doing that, not Sam Snead.
It's a funny thing about getting a reputation and having a tough time shaking it, isn't there?
I haven't been able to shake it yet, Peter. They're still after me, boy, I tell you. But Peter, when I walk on the golf course, everybody knows who I am. I've been fortunate there. I guess that's the club throwing and temperamental stuff. It gave me some notoriety, and I don't have to worry about the people not recognize me, because they all do.
Now, one of your famous proteges also was known for having a fiery temper. Funny that his name is Tom, and he, of course, Mr. Weiskopf, won the U.S. Senior Open yesterday. How thrilled were you about that?
I was so proud I didn't know what to think. I really was. The tears came in my eyes yesterday, because Tom Weiskopf came to me, Peter, when he was 22 years old, and he says, I want to learn, Mr. Bolt, I want to learn how to play golf. And I was living in Sarasota then. I says, come on down, spend a couple of weeks with me. He did just that, and I'm so proud of him. I'm so happy for Jeannie, his wife, that she's getting along fine. Tom had potentials. I knew right away when he was 22 that if he just worked at it, that he had become a great golf player. He's the greatest golf player on the senior tour today.
What do you think frustrated him more, living in Jack Nicklaus's shadow, or the same thing that bothered you the most, the frustration of the game?
Not being able to control his emotions on the golf course bothered him the most.
Did it yesterday.
And that's hard to do. He controlled them yesterday, because he missed 3 or 4 shots out there, and he got that ball up and down. Had his emotions gotten the best of him, he wouldn't have been able to do that. He would have been over there dumping that ball, because he was mad at him. You can't let that. You can't get mad at yourself. You've got to control your emotions.
Tough game, and
Yes,
we'll be right back to talk more about it with Tommy Bolt on Golf Talk Live. Our number's 1-800-842-9987.
The big story in golf was the little man who came back. Texas Ben Hogan, once so badly injured in an auto accident, nobody thought he'd ever play again. But he did, and at Birmingham he holed out with a 3 under par to win the Open, his 3rd U.S. Open title. The biggest little guy in golf.
Let me ask you 2 questions about Ben. 1, why was his swing so great? And 2, tell us a little bit about your friendship with him, which was one of the strongest of your life.
Well, Peter, I was playing on the tour in the 50s, early 50s out there, and I'd developed a duck hook. I developed a hook, boy, and I was gripping the club so strongly with my left hand. And I'd already won tournaments, but I didn't know how I won them. I evidently was a good putter, could get the ball up and down. So, and Hogan and I became friends in 1952 when I first played at Colonial in Fort Worth there. And so I went to him in 1955 and I said, Ben, you've got to help me. I'm fighting this hook. I don't know what to do. And he said, all you got to do is move your left hand over on top of the club. And I did that, and that's when I really started to learn to play golf. I'd already won 4 or 5 tournaments before then, but I didn't know how I won them. Like some of the kids out there playing today, they win in tournaments, but they really don't know how they're winning them. They don't know how to control the ball or keep or swing at the ball properly. And he moved my left hand over on top, and immediately, a couple of weeks later, we went to San Francisco, and I led the tournament the first 2 rounds there. And I couldn't make a putt, a 4-foot putt to save my soul, Peter. My putting putt killed me there, and Hogan and Jack Blake tied, and Jack Blake beat Hogan in the playoff. But Snead and I finished next. But after the first 2 rounds, I couldn't get the ball in the hole to save my soul. But I was playing well from tee to green. I eliminated the fear of hooking the ball, and that's the greatest feeling in the world, believe me.
Well, that turned out to be a great year for you, too. I mean, 3rd in the Open, 3rd in the Masters, won both your Ryder Cup singles matches.
Yeah.
Beat Snead in the quarterfinals before losing.
Yeah, I was...
at the PGA Championship.
I was really playing good in those days, Peter. I had, well, I was winning some money, and I was living good, and I was playing good. I had control of myself. I tossed a club or 2, but so did everybody else. I just looked like I should, every time I missed a shot, Peter, that I should do something with that golf club. And the media got a hold of it, and they really ballooned it up out of proportion. And the public, they know me. I know Tommy Bolt, but I know him by his club throwing, not by his golfing ability.
Well, anybody who asks, I'm going to let them know you haven't thrown 1 club since you've been here. We've got Mike from Texas with us. Hello, Mike.
How you doing? I'd like to ask Mr. Bolt what he thinks Ben Hogan's secret was in the early 50s.
Concentration. Being able to put everything out of your mind, and his left-hand grip on the golf club was his secret. Would be, he was a hooker too, before he had the automobile bus accident, and he moved his, he read those books by Harry Vardon and those great British players over there, and he revised his whole game. He came out with a new grip and a new swing and everything. And he was actually the most unbeatable player that I knew from 1950 to 1955. He was the greatest player that I ever played with.
That was a time that your friendship was particularly strong as well.
Yes, we were pretty close.
Tell me about the friendship a little bit.
Well, I could, most all the other players would kind of puppy down to him, you see, I'd call him, I said, Ben, who do you think you are? You're a human being too. And that's the way he liked to be talked to. He didn't like everybody cowing down to him. So I told him what I thought, and he liked that. He liked for you to get frank with him.
Now, for the people who wonder how Ben's doing, I know you speak to him frequently. Is he feeling okay? Is he doing okay right now?
He's doing just fine. He's home now, and he's recuperating from the colostomy he had. He's doing just fine. I talked to him a couple of months ago.
Thanks for sharing that with us. We'll be right back with more Golf Talk Live right after this.
At Denver, the U.S. Open, played in the shadow of the Rockies, saw Arnold Palmer sink an incredible putt. Coming from 7 strokes behind, Palmer showed nerves of steel and a will of granite as he battled to win the U.S. Open. A sensational rally adds the Open crown to Palmer's earlier Masters victory, golfing's Man of the Year.
You know, Tommy, one of my favorite pictures of the 6 times that you threw a club in your whole life, forgetting the tosses, was at Cherry Hills in 1960. That great shot of you moving towards the front of the tee with the club over your shoulder and getting ready to send that thing 50 yards into the water.
Well, there was a carp, Peter, jumping up, flipping up, eating there out in the water. You know, the tee was right next to the water there.
Sure.
And, of course, I put hit my ball. This fairway, the 18th hole there, the fairway slopes right back into the lake, and you have to kind of hit a little cut shot back in there to hold it in that fairway. and I hit a cut shot back in there, but I didn't cut it enough. And that cat came right back in the water. And so I teed up another one, and boom, same thing. And so I just drenched that club. I threw that club at the carp.
Drowned it.
Drowned it.
Now, before Arnold was Arnold, you guys used to travel the tour together when he owned 2 pair of pants, right?
We traveled in as soon as he turned professional, he traveled with me on the tour.
Late 54.
Yeah, 1955. He started on the tour.
Right, he won the amateur, and then right at the end of the year, yes.
He and I were playing at, I never will forget, we were playing at, we didn't play at St. Paul, we played practice rounds at St. Paul, the tournament before the Canadian Open. And I was fortunate enough to come from 8 behind to beat Jerry Barber and win the St. Paul Open, and Arnold finished 3rd. And boy, he's always been a tagger. He thought that he should win every tournament he played in. And I guess that's a good feeling. I know that I felt exactly the same way, Peter. So he finished 3rd there, and then we went on to Toronto, and we stopped today along the way and fished. And we didn't get there on Tuesday in time to register when we should have. And Finsterwald didn't think that we should be able to play in the golf tournament, but that
was nice of them.
They overruled him, and we got to play. And I played with Palmer. I played with Arnold 3 rounds as he was winning the tournament. I think I finished 2nd or 3rd in the tournament behind him. He put it in the trees. I never will forget one time I was playing with him. He put it in the trees about the 15th, 16th hole, and he was going to try to knock that ball right through those trees. I says, Arnold, I've never seen anybody but Popeye or Olive Oil knock a ball through a tree. And I said, chip the ball out into the fairway, pitch it up on the green, and take your bogey if you have to. He did just that, knocked on the green, hold a 15-footer for a par, went on to win the tournament.
Is that the days he only had 2 pair of pants?
Well, back in those days, yeah, he had 2 pair of pants, one on and one in the cleaners.
So how did the hitch start?
Well, I think the hitch started after that, Peter. I've forgotten really how it got started.
Oh, because I thought you had said at one time that the hitch started because the pants didn't fit, so he kept pulling them up.
Well, Arnold's a great guy, and a credit to the game, and he's a good friend of mine.
We've got George from Maryland on with us right now. You're on Golf Talk Live, and it's nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bolt?
Yes.
You probably remember this, but a few years ago, let's say in the 1940s, you used to play golf around Houston. And to have those like pro-ams.
In the late 40s.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember the time I was caddying for you, and on the 8th hole at the Houston Country Club off of Harrisburg Boulevard.
Yes.
You said, I just might knock this sucker in. And you had an 8-iron, and you knocked it in the hole for Eagle 2 on that par 4 hole.
Yeah.
And of course, you finished around with a little easy 65.
Yeah.
Now, my question to you is, what did you think about Byron Nelson? He was a very talented player, and I saw him on a number of occasions. But this was after he had quit playing regular.
I thought he was one of our greatest players. Byron Nelson was, no doubt that he was. And he had, his arthritis got the best of him, I think. That's the reason he quit playing on the tour. He just didn't feel like he should play and not perform as well as he thought he could, so he quit playing on the tour. Yeah, Byron Nelson was no doubt one of our greatest players, and he had the modern swing. He had the kind of a compact swing. He didn't have the long, loose-looking swing that some of the guys have out there nowadays. He controlled the golf club at the top of the swing because it was compact.
It's been said about Byron that he was really the father of the modern swing, the first guy to effectively use steel shafts with a newer motion.
Probably was, Peter. I don't know. I know that his swing is a lot of guys imitated his swing.
With good reason, right?
It was a good reason, too.
Jerry from New Jersey, you're with us on Golf Talk Live. Hello, Jerry.
Hey, Pete, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right, you're doing good with the commercials, Pete.
Thank you. We're trying to keep them to a minimum just for you.
Okay, thank you. Tom, Bolt,
yes.
my first set of clubs I ever owned in my life had your name on them.
Good.
And I got them at the Croydon Golf Company in Maplewood, New Jersey.
That's right.
And back in those days, did you actually participate with that company, or did you just loan them your name, or how did that operate back then?
That was the first company first company I represented. I played with those old Croydon golf clubs. I won the North and South Open with a set of Croydon clubs. Those were some of the finest clubs made in those days. In the 30s, I know the Croydon Golf Club was the most expensive golf club you could buy, and you could cut rocks, you could chop rocks with those clubs, and you couldn't scar them at all. They were case-hardened steel. They were with a fluted shaft. He made the shaft and club and all right there in Maplewood, New Jersey.
Were your first set of clubs, Tommy, hickory shafted when you were a kid?
Yes, my first set of clubs were hickory shafts, yes.
Do you remember the feel of those things?
Yes, I remember that we had, if a club didn't feel right, it felt like it was a little stiff, and you wanted to put a little kick in it, you could take a broken Coca-Cola bottle and kind of scrape it down there and scrape some of the wood off and make it a little kickier and make it suited to you anyway.
How tough was it to play with those?
We didn't even know, because we had never played with steel before, Peter. So hickory was the only thing we knew, so we got along with them just well.
Was it difficult to do the transition from hickory to steel?
Not really. I think it was fairly easy. It wasn't too much to it.
We're going to be right back with the great Tommy Bolt. Right after these messages, our number again is 1-800-842-9987.
Near gale winds sweeping over the Massachusetts countryside offer an additional hazard in the U.S. Open at the Brookline Country Club. No player is even close to par as they wind up at the 72nd hole. But veteran Julius Boros is among the leaders. He won the Open in 1952, and now, 11 years later, he has this putt to sink for a 293 that would keep him in the running. Close on Boros' heels is Arnold Palmer, another former Open title holder. Arnie needs this 5-footer for a par 4 and a tie with Boros. Now it's a two-way tie, with still another finisher to be heard from. The third man is Jackie Cupid, a 23-year-old newcomer to the tourney circuit. He just misses a birdie that would have given him the title and has to try for a par 4. It was the breaks of the game for Cupid, and now the title will rest on an 18-hole playoff round. They turned in the highest Open scores in 28 years, but they're still in the running. The next day, Boros gives a calm, steady performance, and as he approaches the 18th playoff hole, he's a stroke under par. This is 3 strokes better than Cupid and a full 6 better than Palmer. They can't catch him now, and the 43-year-old Boros takes the $18,000 first money and becomes the oldest golfer to capture the Open title.
You know, it's funny because only 5 years earlier, when you won the Open in '58, at age 42, you were the oldest.
Yeah.
If you had had Julius Boros' temperament, how many golf tournaments would you have won, Tom?
No telling. Julius was a great player. He was one of my. If you were to name the 5 best players that I ever played with, Julius would be one of them. He was a great player. He controlled the ball.
And himself.
Oh, yes, he did. He controlled his emotions, and he took everything so easy, Peter, because I think he had, if I can remember right, he had a rheumatic heart. And the doctor told him to take it easy. And boy, when he was about 18 years old, and after that, he just looked like he was just flopping around, you know. He really took it easy. He never he never let anything bother him. He was fishing when he wasn't playing golf. He just relaxed, and he was really one of our better players.
Funny, shortly before he died, they said, when are you ever going to retire? And he said, well, all I do is play golf and fish anyway. What am I going to retire to?
What are you going to retire from, yeah?
Let's see what Woody from Arkansas has, Tommy. Hello, Woody.
Hi, Peter. Tommy, this is Woody Harlan.
Hey, Woody, how are you, boy?
Fine. Peter, I have a story about Tommy. This is about a few years ago, and Tommy and I were playing golf on a par 5, and he pushed his tee shot to the right, and then he had to try to cut a 3-wood around a grove of trees, and he pulled it a little bit, and he was about 160 yards from the tee and had limbs hanging down in front of him. And I said, what are you going to do with that, Tommy? He said, I'm going to hit an FA shot. So he hit the ball. It looked like he hit it a 6-iron, about 140 yards, about quail high, and hit on the green, just stopped. And I said, Tommy, what's an FA shot? He said, son, that's a forgotten art shot.
Thank you, Woody. Good to hear from you, boy.
Good to talk to you, Tommy.
Do you still get to play a lot of golf every day with your friends? And is that the kind of golf you're playing now? Friendly golf, happy golf?
Well, when I'm in town, I do, Peter. When I'm home, I do. Yeah, I have a group that we play with. The guys are pretty close to my age, and they're pretty good golf players. They're very knowledgeable. Benny Whitaker, he's my club maker. He makes all my clubs for me. Puts them, you know, changes the shafts in them and puts the new grips on, does all that. And we got a loft and lie machine. He balances them and fixes them, you know, to fit you. And yeah, we play a lot of golf, have a lot of fun. And
what kind of handicap the boys make you play to?
Well, we play skins, and after the first skin I win, I have to win. We play birdie skins. And after I make my first birdie, or if I do make a birdie, I make my first birdie, I have to make 2 to their 1 from then on in.
So what does that mean you're shooting these days?
That means I shot, I play pretty close to par around those courses.
Unbelievable. We're going to take a short break, Tommy. We'll be right back with more Golf Talk Live. This wonderful man, Mr. Tommy Bolt, right after this. Let's talk a little bit about the years preceding 1958, particularly 55, after Hogan recommended that swing change. There's a great story in 1955 in the quarterfinals of the PGA Championship when you beat Sam Snead, that the crowd would kick his errant shots back towards the green, and because it wasn't in one of the states where they knew you and loved you as well as they did in the Midwest and in the South, that Sam got the benefit of their help.
Well, I think that actually happened a lot of times at Greensboro, North Carolina.
I'm not shocked.
Peter, he won that tournament 8 times there. All Sam had to do is hit his ball into the crowd, boys. One of those big, tall basketball players was going to jump up there and knock it down by the hole. He was. They told him to ask the people not to stop his ball, you know, but he Nudie likes to win, and they didn't do it all the time.
What do you call him?
Nudie. It all comes back. A lot of people have done that. They did it for Arnold too, the same way. They threw his ball back into the fairway several times, and they just like to see their favorite win. So they're going to help him out a little bit if he puts the ball in the rough.
It's funny, golf's the only game that you can do that, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
Why don't we see what Ben from Oklahoma wants to ask you? Go ahead, Ben.
Hello. Hi, Mr. Bolt.
Yes.
Many years ago, I read a great golf book that you had written. It was very amused regarding your comments about the slam bang kids, Palmer, Player, and Nicklaus, how they couldn't bang the ball like they do if golf courses were built like the old days. I'd be interested in any comments you have tonight.
Well,
Slam bang kids.
well, I've forgotten about that slam bang stuff. No, those guys, Palmer played back when the fairways were real narrow. They, especially in the major tournaments, they only had 30-yard fairways earlier until 1959 or 60, when they USGA made the fairways 40 yards wide, so those kids could keep the ball in there. They didn't want to. They want some lower scores shot out there because of the scoring wasn't too easily with 30-yard fairways. You missed the fairway back in those days, and you had problems.
Bernadette from New Jersey, you're with us on Golf Talk Live.
Hello.
Hello, Bernadette.
Hello, Bernadette.
Yes, hi. I have a 12-year-old son, and he is extremely interested in golf. And I would like to know the single best thing I could do to excel his game mentally. Physically, he's wonderful. He shoots a 79. But mentally, sometimes he gets a little frustrated.
Honey, all 12-year-old kids are a little frustrated. But he'll grow out of that, dear. Just tell him it's only a game, and to concentrate on what he's doing, keep his mind on his business, and he won't get those frustrations.
Is it okay, though, Tom, for a young man to go ahead and vent his frustration within some reasonable boundary?
I think that he should, Peter. I think that he should release those emotions somehow. I think that if you have to go over and give yourself a pep talk and chew yourself out, you know what I mean? I think that you should. Yeah, you should get those emotions, because they can pin up in you, boy, and it's pretty tough to play. If they get built up in there, you just can't concentrate like you should. And golf is really a mental game. It's a game of concentration. Believe me, it is.
Well, I do believe you. Jay from Florida, thank you for calling us.
Good evening, Mr. Bolt. How are you?
Yeah, fine.
I was a great historian of golf, and I followed your career. And let me tell you, sir, you brought a lot to this game, and I put you right up there with Hogan, Saracen, Trevino, Nicklaus, all of them. But with all your frustrations, I remember the 1953 Tucson that you won. In the third round, you knocked 4 consecutive holes into the bunker. You turned to your caddy and says, well, tomorrow I'm bringing a hole and a shovel. Well, you turned around and you got your thoughts back. How did you ever win that tournament? Because you really looked upset.
I can hardly remember that far back, but I guess I was just determined back in those days, and I kept. I had, yes, I let some of my emotions out, but I recovered soon enough to not to let it cost me too many strokes.
We're going to be right back with Mr. Bolt and a little bit more of Golf Talk Live right after this. Be sure to join us next week when our special guest will be outgoing LPGA Commissioner Charlie Meacham. Under his guidance, the tour has attracted new fans, new sponsors, and new tournaments. If you have questions or comments that you'd like to share with us about Golf Talk Live, we'd love to hear from you. Send them to us at the Golf Channel, 7580 Commerce Center Drive, Orlando, Florida, 32819. You know, people don't realize it probably generally, but in 1979, a match that you had in the Legends of Golf was really the beginning of what's become one of the biggest businesses in the United States, the Senior Tour.
It really did, Peter. I think that playoff that Boros, Dave Vicencio, Art Ball, and myself had, the 6-hole playoff we had there. We birdied all 6 of the holes.
I remember.
And well, they made 6 birdies. We only made 5 birdies, so they eliminated us on the 6th extra hole. But that was it was covered by NBC, and it was, I think everybody in the country, wherever I go in the United States, somebody always reminds me of that playoff. Yeah, I think that started senior golf. I know it had a lot to do with it.
Speaking of playoffs, let me ask you to compare memories. Was the win in 1960 when you beat Hogan and a young Gene Littler in a playoff in Memphis a more favorite memory than the 60 you shot in 1954 when you won the Insurance City Open? 30, 30, 60.
That's, I can remember almost every shot, Peter.
Well, there were so few.
Funny when when you're playing that well, you remember the shots. I missed about a 3-footer on the 10th hole for a 59. I didn't birdie the 10th hole, and I was frustrated there. But yes, the playoff that with Littler and Hogan in the Memphis Open, which just concluded yesterday, I think that was great. In order to play against your mentor, you know, and play well enough to beat him. He only said 2 words to me all day.
Your way. I want to tell you what a great pleasure it's been to have you here.
Hey, thank you, Peter.
An honor for all of us, an honor for everybody who watches the great game of golf and loves it, as you and I do. Thank you so much on behalf of everybody here.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week, 8 p.m. Thanks for being with us tonight.